Hello and welcome to the Reopen America podcast. This is Chris Nelson. It is May 27th, 2020, and this show is brought to you by ChaseMatheson.com, where you can get your free Kimberly t-shirt. We all saw Kimberly and Tara and Arthur being arrested on Miami Beach and the gross misjustice that happened down there. And now you can get shirts to support them. The proceeds go towards the Free Tara and Arthur Fund. You can get those at ChaseMatheson.com. Use promo code Chris, and you will get a 10% discount. I am joined, finally, I've been looking forward to this so much, by Fort Lauderdale Mayor Dean Trantalis. Mayor Trantalis, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Great, thank you. Thank you for asking me.
So I saw your press conference yesterday by the beach with Mayor Holness and with the law enforcement officers. And I'm so glad that Fort Lauderdale Beach is reopened, but I'm looking at some of these stipulations. You can run, you can walk, you can swim, but you can't sit or you can't sunbathe. What's going on with that?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you again for inviting me on your program. And also, we are in very trying times right now. We all realize that these are circumstances we've never before experienced, at least this generation has not. And it's important to try to figure out best practices, what protocols we can follow to ensure the safety and health of everyone in our community. Now, this virus is very random. We don't know how it comes and goes. We don't know who's going to be impacted by it, who's going to be affected by it. We don't really know enough about it. I see the experts every night. I watch TV, and they're still guessing. You know, they're doing their best guessing, but still, they're always guessing on the side of caution to be sure that the virus doesn't spread. So yesterday, we had an announcement. We worked with the county and other mayors in Broward County to announce the opening of certain businesses as well as the beach. We opened our hotels, we opened gyms, and again under strict protocols that we're not alone in their trying to ensure, along with restaurants and other businesses, to ensure that people are going to be protected if they go out. So yesterday we opened the beaches as well. And we have a lot of people who are very interested in the opening of the beach, mainly because it's a very healthful environment. You know, people feel rejuvenated, they feel good. A lot of vitamin D comes from the sun. You know, it's a real, happening place. And we have a beautiful beach. I think the best beach in all of Florida. It's gorgeous. And we finally were able to open the beaches after the governor on May 8th, allowed his order to expire. So now it was up to the local municipalities to make the decisions going forward. So Broward County stepped in and said, no, we're keeping the beaches closed. And they weren't prepared for the governor's order, it appeared. And so they spoke with the mayors of the different coastal cities, and they spoke to the mayors throughout the entire county. And eventually they came up with certain protocols that they felt were best practices. One of those best practices was not to open Memorial Day weekend. And the reason why we agreed with that, we in Fort Lauderdale agreed with that, is for the same reason we closed Fort Lauderdale Beach on March 15th, along with Miami Beach, because we knew that the crowd that would gather in Miami Beach, if they thought that Fort Lauderdale Beach was open, we would end up getting their crowd, and we weren't capable of monitoring, a huge influx of people. So that is why we decided, along with the county, to not open until yesterday. So we survived Memorial Day, and now we're heading towards the summer months.
Okay.
Miami-Dade is not yet open.
Oh, we know about Miami-Dade. Yeah. People are getting arrested. I would not recommend, Mr. Mayor, you walk on the sands of Miami Beach. You will be arrested. Maybe not you, but maybe not this guy Raven, but other people will. But
the thing is, we're not interested in arresting people. We're not interested in criminalizing the recovery, our economic recovery. It makes no sense. I mean, we're all human beings. We're all people. Fort Lauderdale has the approach of trying to encourage people to do the right thing. We don't want to slam them with fines or incarceration. I mean, this is all about protecting one another. And especially since we're talking about a violation that is, it's curious at best, because you're sitting on the beach. What harm are you doing to the next person?
Exactly. And do you mind? I just want to ask you. This comes with the enforcement thing, and I noticed that yesterday at the press conference there seemed to be a difference in approach between you got county and you got the sheriff, Gregory Tony, talking enforcement, and then you've got your chief of police that's talking about. I was given all sorts of thumbs ups on the Facebook Live when he was talking about, we're not here to try to arrest anybody or anything like that. Whether or not you think that the rules are ridiculous or a violation of civil rights, I mean, we could get into that, and I know you don't have all day, but I noticed that there was a difference there between county and city in regards to enforcing these policies. Let me just ask, what's going to happen if I decided to go on Fort Lauderdale Beach right now with some people and throw down my towel, and because I'm really pasty right now, and work on my tan? What would happen to me?
Well, we're not going to handcuff you. Let's put it that way. It would cut into your tan line, but uh,
And
but
not wear a mask either. There's no masks that you're talking about wearing on Fort Lauderdale Beach, right?
correct,
All
correct.
right.
See, getting back to originally why we shut the beaches down, we did that because kids were in clusters, okay, and both on the beach and off the beach, in the bars, in the restaurants, in the hotel rooms. We
It
realized
was
that
spring break time. Yeah, it was.
everyone was having a good time, crowding, cramping, squeezing. It's all about having a good time, right? Well, that was fertile territory for the coronavirus. And we realized that we needed to take some action, which also led us to take action regarding boat ramps and things like that, because people were taking their boats and tying up out in the sandbars. And again, we needed to take some sort of action to try to inhibit that kind of activity. So you ask, what harm does it do to go out and sit out in the sand? Honestly, none. Okay, but uh, but if people gather in clusters again, if they don't worry about the spread of the droplets that come through interaction, then we feel responsible as government to try to figure out a program that will at least minimize that kind of contact. So it's open air, is breezy. The medical experts say that there's no harm to one another. So I think that as Broward County begins to unveil its protocols and tries to ease back into normalization of activity on our beaches, I think they'll eventually get to that point. Right now, they don't feel comfortable at that point, so we have to follow suit since they have superior authority at this point. But I know that Fort Lauderdale would be ready to allow people to be more active on the beach than the current protocols provide.
Sir, I've been following you on Facebook. You've got a good Facebook presence. I like it. You've seen where, I don't know if you look at it yourself, but I'm very vocal when I've disagreed with you. And then I'm also very vocal when I agree with you. And I've been watching this back and forth between the county, and it's almost surreal. Like, you're there talking about wanting to see the beaches reopen. And am I right, sir? You want them reopened without restrictions?
I think that we have to get to that point. And the reason
Okay.
is, but listen, Christopher, the reason is because people are getting stir crazy. People
Tell me about it.
are we've got to understand that there's a mental illness that's beginning to permeate our communities, that failure to recognize it and to try to bring people back into some normalized or at least functionality within our community is the only way we're going to get people feeling good about themselves. And we got to avert any kind of antisocial behavior that might percolate out of this mental illness that we're starting to see happen.
I want to touch base on that. I work as a security guard, and actually, a woman where I work had a necklace ripped right off of her by a masked assailant who she could not identify because he was wearing a mask. And I think this is a great time to transition to the second thing I wanted to talk about, these masks. I remember when you put out that post that everybody now has to wear masks in the stores. Let me ask you, is there a civil rights violation here as far as the Americans with Disabilities Act, and also with religious rights, with people being denied entry into stores for not wearing masks?
Well, I would leave that question to the scholars who know more about constitutional law than I do. But I will say that we do have competing interests, but I think that the pandemic kind of overrides or supersedes a lot of the otherwise, respected constitutional rights. We have to look, we're all in this together. We all have to protect one another. We all have to protect ourselves as well as the next person. So I went to the gym last night for the first time. I mean, all I did was smell Mr. Clean everywhere. I mean, the place was just so antiseptic. It was cleaner than
Yeah.
some hospitals I've been in. So, and every hour they got a guy with a spray gun spraying every piece of equipment from one end to the next. I mean, people are very, very careful and respectful of the need to not spread this virus. So constitutionally, I can't answer your question, but I do know that let's just take a break from trying to react too swiftly and too hard. Let's just understand the situation we're in now, and let's just see how we can get through this together, rather than trying to dig our heels in the sand and say, look, I have rights for this and that. Let's just try to ease out of this. We're hoping to get into phase 2 soon. Phase 2, as defined by the CDC, will open more businesses and will allow more freedoms. But we can't get there until we have arrested the spread of this virus. So the more we protect ourselves, the going forward, the complete burden is on the shoulders of our community. And the more we respect the needs for not spreading this virus, the more swiftly we'll get to phase 2 as well as phase 3. Because I know a lot of people want to get back to their bars. And
I bet they do. Well, I mean, I was down Fort Lauderdale Beach a week ago, and there were people at, I don't think they were actually allowed to sit at the bar, but they were out and about. Fort Lauderdale is hopping, man. Fort Lauderdale, I loved it, and the difference between Fort Lauderdale and Miami Beach is just crazy. It's like a ghost town down there, but Fort Lauderdale is a hopping, awesome, amazing place. And I see people out there ready to go. Now, I think we have some fundamental differences here as far as constitutional rights go, and in terms of a virus, and also whether these what they call mitigation methods are actually working. And you know what, Mayor, we will never know whether another approach may have worked or not. But I do want to get to another topic with you, because I know your time is limited. There is $340 million sitting with the county right now from the CARES package. And has Fort Lauderdale seen any of this $340 million that they're talking about using for, I don't know what, contact tracing? Bertha Henry's talking about removing people from their homes. I don't know what this is about. Has Fort Lauderdale seen any of this $340 million?
I don't think any cities have seen any of that money yet. They're still discussing how it's going to be allocated and appropriated. There's a concern that the county may just keep it for itself and spend it all in keeping with the necessity to try to prevent the spread of the virus. Some cities are thinking, well, we should all take our proportionate share. So, like Fort Lauderdale is 1/10 the population of the county, so we should get 10% of that allocation. So there's all kind of discussion going on about that right now, but I don't believe Fort Lauderdale has seen any of that yet. I don't think the check has been written to Broward County yet. So we're still trying to see how we can participate in that allocation.
Yeah, we'll see, and we are watching that closely. And talking about between you and the county, I want to say, sir, thank you. I appreciate you for the way you have publicly stood up to the county. And it seems like, I'm watching this meeting, and they're talking about with the gyms, and you saying you wanted to open the gyms, and then them saying no. And then there were threats of $1,000 fines, $15,000 fines. Then you came out and said that, I guess at some point, that they threatened to arrest you if you went on that. And then I also want to say I have a a source that's a confirmed source, because he was on the call, who said that on this mayor's call that you weren't on, that mayor of Broward, Dale Holness, said, I will teach him a lesson in regards to you. And then they're talking about in the meeting about you saying that they threatened to arrest you. Did they threaten to arrest you?
Directly, I can't say they threatened to arrest me, but I know that there was conversation that was taking place, not out in the open, in which they were trying to figure out, how do we shut Dean Trantalis up? And that was very disturbing. And so you have to keep in mind that the governor, um, through his executive order, opened gyms throughout the state. And then, so we said, okay, great. So we communicated with the county that very day, and this was a couple of Fridays ago, and they did not indicate they were going to take any action one way or the other. So we felt we had the free hand to go move forward and open our gyms. Now, we did not open our gyms, carelessly. We had already convened business groups, medical people, people in the community, a representative from the YMCA, a local gym owner. We brought in these focus groups, and we came up with protocols that were specifically designed to reopen restaurants, hotels, gyms, as well as other businesses. The county had not done that. The county had not taken that step. They waited for the governor to act, and then they said, okay, now let's discuss it. And at one point, I was told, well, we'll figure that out in a few weeks. And I said, a few weeks? I said, that's not acceptable. People are chomping at the bit here. So we had all of our protocols in place. So really, that little victory that they claimed they had, where they forced us to shut down again, it was really a Pyrrhic victory, because in reality, when the gyms did open and were given the authority to open yesterday, nothing was changed. They took the exact same protocols that we had already established, adopted them as their own, and said, okay, here, you can open up your gyms. There's only one small difference where we had originally said spread the machines 6 feet apart. They said 10 feet apart. We recommended face masks. They didn't even recommend face masks.
The county didn't recommend. That's
correct. Only for employees, not for customers. So the point is that I don't know what was going on over there. All I know is that
none of us do. We're trying to get to the bottom of it.
Well, at this point, Christopher, it doesn't matter, because we're getting our communities open. We're getting people back on their feet. People do not want to live off the federal government. They want to feel they can get back to work, earn a living, pay their rent, pay their mortgage, and try to reestablish some sense of normalcy to their life, and without endangering anybody. And I think it can be done. I think there's a balance there. I think we can establish that. Let's not fear the unknown. Let's embrace it. Let's try to create a pathway to this recovery, and let's do so sensibly and not try to threaten one another as we try to ease our way out of this.
Amen. And I think you've been a great voice for people coming together and working together. And I don't know if my audience caught that, but that was a Democrat right there talking about people don't want to live off the government. So, I said, this is not about party right here. To me, this is a great opportunity for people to come together of all parties, of all different walks of life, all different belief systems, and come together and really work to do the right thing. And I have been applauding you. I believe you are doing the right thing, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your watching what goes on, and thank you for keeping us honest and giving us your opinions as we move along and try to get things done right.
Absolutely, sir. And I want to ask you one more question.
Okay.
We are planning to have a rally on Tuesday to try to get into one of these Broward County meetings, because they have been shutting the public out from all their meetings. We've called in and waited for hours, and they don't get to our comments. They end their meeting. I was wondering, would you join us outside the Broward County Government Building on Tuesday at 10 o'clock?
I don't think that's appropriate for me to be standing out there. But
Okay.
If you have a question you want to ask, let us know. But you have to understand that, we have a long time relationship with the folks at the county. And especially these last 2 years, we've had a very meaningful and productive relationship. Our goal here is to we don't want coronavirus is the enemy, not each other. And we need to work together to defeat that enemy. And so while we differ on approaches, I feel that eventually we'll come out at the same destination, because we all agree that we need to get our economy up and going again. I know that a lot has been said, and I'm sure some things were said by people over the county that was said in the heat of the moment. But so we have to look past that. We need to move on. I'm not going to count my words, and I'm certainly not going to count theirs. So right now, if you want to go demonstrate, I never ever say you shouldn't demonstrate.
I just
But
want to get in the meeting. I just want to have the
well,
people's
you can't
voice
get in the
heard.
meeting. They're virtual meetings.
Well, they don't. You know what's going on right now? They're not allowing any public into their meetings. We watch them and we wait on the phone like they tell us to, and then 6 o'clock rolls around and they cut off without getting any public comments. I mean, is that doing government in the sunshine?
Well, I certainly would question that practice if that were occurring. We
Yeah.
certainly don't do that with our city. We accept questions in advance, and we put you online, in real time to have that exchange. So it's not the way we do business, and I hope that we could encourage them to follow the way we've been doing it.
Amen. Fort Lauderdale Mayor Dean Trantalis, keep up the good work,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so
for
much.
all you're doing to get our wonderful city reopened. This is the Reopen America podcast. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, on YouTube, of course, on Facebook, and please share this. There's that little share button down in the corner. Share this interview, get the message out, and Mr. Mayor, maybe I will see you on the beach or at the gym.
Okay, you take care. Thank you so
All
much.
right. You too. This is
Bye-bye.
Chris Nelson. Thanks for listening.